Hello and welcome back to the Sweat Capital podcast. Today we are very lucky to be joined by Lulu Ghattas.
Ghattas.
Nailed
it. 11 years where it's hard.
Yeah. Right. I was trying to be all fancy. And Lulu, I was reading through, your background and your official title at Kinso, but I think on your LinkedIn it's head of sarcastic Instagram comments or something. So yeah, I'll run with that as the intro.
Yeah, that's what I'm most known for in the Kinso office. Whenever I get a moment, I'm on Instagram replying back to everyone. But I think, at Kinso, my official title beyond LinkedIn is head of community. But when you're at a startup, titles really don't matter.
Yeah.
But my day-to-day is very much like customer support and marketing and the kind of this merge of both, and then lots of content mixed in between.
Oh, awesome.
And there you go. Yeah, and you're probably our youngest ever podcast guest, Lulu. We don't usually interview young people, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You obviously achieved so much in your short span of life. But a question we like to ask all our guests starting out is, what was your first ever job? Because we often find there's a good story behind it or something you might have learned that sort of has led to other roles and stuff. So we'll start there.
That's a great question. My first ever job was my own business when I was 11 years old. I started a card company, lulus.card.co on Instagram. And
Still exists?
Still exists, honestly. I don't know, it doesn't run, but it's there.
Yeah, no, I'm saying like so we can see the receipts.
You can see the receipts, the 3 years of receipts. And I started with getting 1,000 blank cards, and I went to school and was like, what do you guys want printed on your cards for a $2 coin? And it started like that, and then it ended up going from year 5 to year 7.
Oh, right.
And I ended up selling them to all my family friends, designing them, selling to different prices depending on what postcode they lived in. So what age they were.
What's that surge pricing?
Yeah.
So that was the kind of first job for me.
That's hilarious. And why does an 11-year-old Lulu feel, incentivized or inclined to start a business? That's pretty unusual.
I think it's both of my parents are business owners. My dad was in the telecommunications space, and my mum's been an interior designer, so I just never knew anything different. I remember my brother selling Tic Tacs for 20 cents on the playground as well, and I was very jealous of that, and I needed it.
That's great margin on a Tic Tac.
Yeah,
true. Yeah.
Was that a singular Tic Tac?
You need to sell a lot though, don't you?
Yeah,
that's true.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's in the blood a bit, so I needed to compete with them.
That's awesome. And then so obviously right now you've obviously got your fingers in a few pies, but you're also studying at university. Do you want to speak to what you're studying?
Yes, I'm definitely not university's biggest cheerleader. So I'm looking for that move on. But I started with a Bachelor of Commerce. What did you boys study?
So I was law and econ, just finished, and same as you, not the biggest fan of university.
Yeah.
I was actually a very, very good student. Studied extensively. Yeah, never failed a course either.
Inspiring.
Yeah. No, I did commerce. Yeah.
That one. Yeah, that was the one I started with. I did commerce at Sydney Uni, which is what everyone does when they finish their HSC. And I was like, oh, but these guys don't love business like I do. I'm actually going to love it. And then my first subject, I was told to think more inside the box. And then I was told, then we were studying case studies from 2000s. And I was like, kindly get me out of this place
with all due respect, was that the university lecturer that had been there for X amount of years?
Yes, yeah.
That was telling you that?
Yeah, well, and I think it was along the lines of you'll get better marks if you think inside the box. Don't put that much work on yourself. But also I was like, my brain can't handle whatever's going on here.
Yeah. Which is sort of not a lie.
Yeah.
That's literally not a lie.
Yeah. It was just be more basic. And I was like, oh my God, I think I was doing a collab with it was a sustainability project with a sustainability brand and tradie underwear. And she couldn't really see but I see the vision.
Let me cook. Yeah.
And then I dropped out for a year. And then at the end of the day, I'm a bit of a nerd. I love learning. And so I dove into an economics degree when I started my recruitment business, just to kind of have that backing as a woman in the world. And it's such a kind of privilege to study. I see that, but I just kind of want to finish my degree and get out of there.
Yeah. That was definitely what we were doing as well. I was trying to expedite my degree, but I couldn't because of the timing of subjects and stuff. And you learn such archaic stuff. Especially in economics. Everything's based on a million assumptions that never hold true in real life. So you sit there and you're like, far out, get me out of this place.
Yeah, but it's that.
It's interesting to hear though that you've, through that time, we're constantly still thinking about businesses. The recruiting ones, that stands out to us as being quite interesting. Why recruiting? What did you see there?
Yeah, it kind of fell naturally in place I went on like a 6-month gap year and I worked like 8 random jobs, like so many kids do, before I left for that trip. And I had so many of my employers be like, oh, like I need like people. And I was like, I think I should be getting paid for this. And then, so I started a recruitment business. But, well, first of all, I was trying to start like a LinkedIn for young adults, but I don't have any technical skills. So it was like 6 months of I don't even know what I was trying to do. And then through TikTok, I was posting every day about like young adult jobs, and people started reaching out to me saying like, are you a recruiter? And I was like, yeah. I think so. Since then, it's been like kind of like it's a recruitment business, very much so basic, so uninnovative. Just
Love that.
Yeah, sending out job postings, interviewing people, screening people, and sending them to the employer, which is fun, and focusing on young adults mainly.
Yeah, wow. Oh, that's super interesting. And like, so you're doing all this, you know, like how are you learning about recruiting at the time? Because, you know, a lot of people when they go into, you know, a role or start a business, they would, you know, potentially feel somewhat of an imposter in that position. Like,
Yes.
you know, you're going up against all these other recruiters at the end of the day. So yeah, how did you sort of work out how it all works?
Well, first of all, I set my prices really low for like the first 6 months to like get some clients.
Smart.
And that kind of made me feel a bit like less of an imposter, and yeah, get my foot in the door, because to start a recruitment business as someone who's never been a recruiter is quite crazy now that I kind of look back at it. And then after that, it was just learning from like every interview. Oh, you can't ask that, that's illegal. And like things like that. So yeah, I really just had to watch lots of YouTube videos. Like, what do recruiters do? And yeah, I've kind of figured out my way. Yeah, what to ask and what not to ask. So be the tips.
That's how Will and I learnt to ski. YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube.
Yeah.
Sitting at the top of the baby run at
No,
Queenstown.
Yeah, had just cleaned up like 2 or 3 little kids in it, like, you know, accidentally, and then we've gone, all right, mate, we've got to learn this. Because no, how dog is this? We go on a ski trip to Queenstown with our mates, and normally when you go on a ski trip, like with the people who haven't skied before, you go, oh, you should make sure you get lessons and that sort of thing. Zero comms about that before the trip, and so yeah, top of the slope.
So they're doing black runs and we're
Oh, we'll get the hang of this.
Yeah.
You should the YouTube work.
Yeah, it worked.
Great platform. Let's use that more.
How powerful.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Anyway, so before YouthForce, you also worked a bunch of like internships and stuff as well. So one of the ones that stood out for us was the one with Moët Hennessy.
Yeah.
So you led like marketing campaigns for them, did you?
Yeah, that was like insane at 19 years old to be in like the biggest business in the world, LVMH.
Yeah.
Just in Barangaroo down there.
Also they're based down there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
it was just kind of like Devil Wears Prada dream.
Yeah. Of course.
And I guess
Devil Wears Prada.
it was absolutely amazing. What I learned from that is just how valuable like a brand is. Like, these brands don't follow trends. They've just kind of latch on to like this massive brand that's been built hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and kind of keep adding on to that and keeping that relevant. Yeah, which it was just an incredible experience. I still, don't know how I figured that one out, but
It's an interesting point you make about like enduring brands, because there's so many brands that I can think of that have been, you know, hot and then, you know, disappear. We never hear about them. Like, I was trying to think of an example, but on the spot, I'm struggling. In terms of like how that then, what that means for business owners, like a brand at the end of the day, if I think about it in like a finance setting, there's a stream of cash flows attached to the strength of that brand. And so, you know, when you hear about things like what you're doing at Kinso around building your brand and the company's brand, that's building real value. And I think that for the first time, probably since watching a lot of your content, to be honest, on having it pop up in my Instagram feed.
You're trapped in the vortex now.
Yeah, I'm trapped.
Yeah, we're trapped in that algorithm.
Yeah.
The Kinso bloody flywheel.
Yeah, exactly. But you realize and start thinking about brand and you know, LVMH, their portfolio of brands speaks for itself. Like,
It was incredible. And I guess like also in like an early career sense, it was a great intro into like the corporate lifestyle as well, and what that is about and what corporate marketing's about. Like, I show up to work every day and I don't know what's going to happen. I showed up to work there and I was planning campaigns for 12 months in ahead, which is just like
Wow, 12 months.
Crazy like dichotomy of, I mean, paradox of what those two different worlds, the startup world and the corporate world. But they can do that because their brand's so strong. They don't have to worry about, you know, how current things are.
interesting.
Yeah,
Cool.
it was crazy.
Yeah, I guess we'll get on to Kinso now then. We're like, I guess it's the complete opposite, as you say. Like, you're doing stuff on the day and it goes out that day, which is
I have
crazy.
no idea what's going to happen. And yeah, it's so much fun.
Yeah. Well, how'd you land the gig at Kinso? I guess we'll start there.
Yeah, never. So I guess in the Australian startup scene, as I'm sure you guys are familiar with, there's not that much going on. The past 2 years, there's been so much growth, but especially in Sydney, I saw Frank and Jack come up on my like Instagram first. And I remember thinking, because Frank has a podcast and it's so beautiful and so well developed, I was like, how can that be done in Sydney? And like just in the Northern Beaches, like around the corner. So I then I saw that he was starting a new business. I was like, whatever it is, I didn't know what it was, Kinso at the time. I want to be a part of it. So I sent him a message. He replied within that day, which speaks to his speed of execution. And then the next day, that night, we were on a FaceTime. I don't think I really, showed myself too well. I was a bit like, oh my God, already?
So flustered.
So flustered. So then I kind of made a video being like, this is why my whole life has led me up to this job. And for them, this was July last year. That was like, oh my God, like someone's made a video. But now we just had someone jump out of a plane for us, skydiving. And whilst the skydiving instructor was like, he should get a job here, like his whole way skydiving. So it's like that little video I made of, oh, I'm Lulu and this is why my life would prepare me for this, wouldn't even cut out. But it did then. And then I got an interview. And then I had to do like a project, a go-to-market project, which I didn't really know what that meant at the time. But I figured it out on the day, and then I didn't hear from them for a month. So I was...
For a month?
Yeah, they were like in Europe. I was like, guys, there's a girl stressing out right now.
Stop that.
It was so rough. So I absolutely played teacher's pet, and I put together a curriculum of everything I'd learned about go-to-market, like studying Alex Hormozy's book. And they were like, maybe she's... Yeah, she might, we might hire her. And then, it just happens that it's an incredible company and product as well. So that helps the allure of it.
Well, obviously the product itself, Will and I have thought about. I think Will's on your wait list.
I've signed up.
Yeah.
His inbox can wave goodbye now, I'm sure.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. But yeah, like in terms of Frank and Jacques as mentors and founders of Kinso, it's probably undersold just how smart and considered they've been in building it. Like I think there's got to be a lot, because anyone could have gone the route that they've gone with building that business. Do you see that sort of like level of consideration or like with them continued like since you've been there? Yeah,
they're just so tactical, and it's so like how they're building a business. No one has done it like this, especially focusing like distribution first and really doubling down on that build in public, but also the way they've kind of hired these young people, knowing there's a huge gap. Like we know nothing compared to like your average marketer, and given us the resources to grow, and that part's been incredible as well.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like, it hasn't engaged. Well, I guess the story was they were going to engage a marketing firm or something.
Yes.
And then you guys are like, no, we can do it.
Do it.
Was it 10,000 signups, wasn't it?
Yeah, 10,000 signups on the wait list.
Yeah.
It's 100K, so that worked out well.
Yeah, and then so that ended up with you guys actually getting equity in the business as well, which is pretty crazy. Early 20s to own equity in one of Australia's fastest growing startups.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's exciting.
Was it tempting like to take, like what would you have done with 30 grand, do you reckon?
I was going to go buy some Prada shoes, and then I was going to put it all towards a holiday. But as soon as the equity came up, and none of us even thought for a second, because I think when you're behind the scenes of something and seeing what's being put into it in terms of the engineers and the product every day, you don't even like think twice. Like it was a no-brainer for us.
Yeah, right. No, interesting, because like for me, like I've been watching on learning a lot, because part of my role that I have day to day, there's a little bit of a sales function. It's probably in an industry that's less consumer facing, but B2B. And like we spent, it would have been 20 grand probably on sponsorships last year.
Wow.
And so, and return on that, probably got 2 or 3 closed deals that were they were good deals, but I've rethought it this year on the back of seeing how people have, grown with digital content. And probably the biggest flaw I made initially was trying to be almost too strategic with the content itself. Like I was like, I don't want to post this right now because it's going to... And I'm like, I've come to realise that I just never end up posting anything.
It's so true.
I'd love to hear sort of the science behind when you guys put stuff online.
Yeah.
What's the process?
It is a science, and it's kind of a playbook no one has really used before. We wanted the good thing about Kinso is it solves so many problems for so many people. So it's like a Netflix in a way. Like how can you be in everyone's homes? And that's kind of what Netflix does. So we look up to them as like our key distributors, and like what are the 3 things they do so well. The first one is categories, which like I don't know, are you a documentary lover, a rom-com lover, you know? And so we kind of make those categories like educational content, entertaining content, and that's like lots of businesses do that. So that's kind of done. The next thing is like shots on goal. They test and test and test. Like there's a reason there's more than like one Star Wars or Avengers. Like you just rinse it until it's totally like out the window and gone. So we test it. If a format works for us, we're not going to do it once. We're going to do it 10 times, and then we're going to do it across every single person's account 10 times, copying the exact same thing, and just keep rinsing like they do with their storylines. And then the last thing is this idea of characters, which really we haven't seen that much across businesses, which is so exciting that we're kind of leading the way. And everyone that comes on board in the marketing team, we wish the engineers had platforms, but they're very busy. It becomes these like Kinso characters, and it kind of, you're meant to like lean into your personality. So if you're like second guessing something, then it's like, that's probably a good thing because it means it's like your personality. So yeah, then we all have these characters with different audiences. And when we do launch, like we will be able to tap into all of these different markets, which is really exciting.
It's crazy that you guys also just, you know, openly share this sort of stuff, like the build in public thing. Like we're very transparent. Well, yeah, not sure if that'll ever bite us in the back, but people seem quite responsive to it. Well, like Richard Branson, he's known for saying, like, you know, one of his senior executives when he was building Virgin left the business plan in the competitor's business lounge.
Stop.
When they were flying, and he said, oh, like, you know, the exec was in this big fluster, and Branson was like, oh, I don't care.
That is gold.
They can't execute like we can. That's what he said. Yeah.
That is like the first build in public. Build with your competitors. Wow. And if a competitor does come out of the woodworks, they will be able to see our playbook from start to finish.
Yeah.
And they can have a crack at executing on it, but it's just about being able to put your personality on the line and not overthinking things.
Yeah, because like ultimately, even this stuff that we do day to day, like we always talk about it with our podcast, there's no real moat behind someone like getting, you know, so long as you can
get 3 mics and a podcast recorder, average camera.
Yeah, like we're the best example of how there's no moat, because we've managed to work it out, sort of. But like, yeah, in your setting as well, like software and everything, I've been grappling with it myself, like with how I invest. There's not always a moat in these things, but it is in terms of how you grow that brand.
Yeah, and it's like, this is like the least moaty. That's the most technical word I've used. Time, like with obviously the product we're building, there are like quite a few complexities around it. But like with AI in general, you can build absolutely anything. So your moat like then becomes like, then how do you distribute that? And what are your narratives around that? And like if you have Kinso and if a competitor comes along, people are going to choose Kinso because they've seen like themselves in some of our content. So it's exciting.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And I guess so that marketing playbook, is that something that is led from like you guys, like your little marketing team, or is it from like Frank and Jark? Definitely
like passed down from Frank and Jark. Like they have their own like roles within the business, but they are marketing geniuses. And I think because they're not labeled as that, like they're CEO and like in charge of like the technology, that like it's easy for that to go under, but they always come in with the ideas. They let us think big and then we just go and like execute on that. And so they're definitely the masterminds behind it, but as well as Talia, who's head of content, she is incredible, and like the way she can execute, she's just amazing. But they give us lots of space to try new ideas, which is fun.
Yeah, and on that, like, because a lot of the content is posted through your own personal channels as well as the business, how do you go about like considering your personal posting versus what's like a Kinso post?
Yeah, it becomes pretty easy. Like if a post is really good, it goes on Kinso. But when it's more like product based, it goes on Kinso or more about the whole group. But when it's about like your personal experience or like your personal story, then it just goes on.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah, and then just back on the point around like building characters and stuff. Obviously, you guys, your new things, this the Kinternship, and you sort of got. Is it like 6 or 7 new characters or something, essentially?
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
5 of them.
Yeah. Oh, is it 5, is it? Yeah, wow. So what was that like when you guys were thinking that up? And then what was like the take up like when you were getting like applications and stuff for it as well?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of in the corporate world, there's these places where you want to get like that internship and like that will mean so much. And I'm sure you guys have a few of them under your belt as well. But we kind of want to make that for storytelling. So it's like, where do you, like if someone has worked at Kinso as a Kintern, like that's like a
That's
gold
like the bee's
sticker.
knees. Yeah.
And that's kind of where it came from. Like we had this guy, Ollie, who reached out because he needed one for his uni, and we did it, and we just had the best time. And it gives us another story to tell, like these kinterns in the office.
Yeah.
And like the more stories we can tell, it makes our job easier. So yeah, we're having a really fun time with them.
Yeah, that's
It's
pretty
the
cool.
best. But I'm sure you guys are the same because you were talking about your grads as well. It's like the same kind of vibe, training them and having, such a good time.
Yeah, you almost just want to shake people and tell them, like as I was saying to you on the lifts coming up, like you want to tell them that they're there for a reason because they've beaten a field of hopefully a fair few candidates if the business is doing the right thing and has a good recruiter. They've beaten a good field, and so they're there for a reason. And I think, it's empowering at times when you see people publicly like yourself, Talia, and the Kinterns doing that in the presence of CEOs and the sort. Because I think any smart business can learn a lot. Like I'm making my chairman at work, which is like a finance accounting, could not be any more boring, but I'm making him sort of learn from that around, and to his credit, he's definitely doing that. It's sort of embracing that traditional bottom rung of the hierarchy for future ideas, albeit we're probably not going to be doing a Kintern Olympics.
Vince?
Yeah.
No, it could be a possibility.
And then I guess what's next on the horizon for you, Lulu? Like you obviously got YouthForce, you got to finish university presumably, and then you're at Kinso as well. Like are you someone who's keen to go out and start their own thing, or what's sort of the horizon?
The horizon, I'm like all kind of Kinso at the moment. I'll have so much more to learn, and I think when you're underneath like great mentors that you see like how much they know, you just want to be there for as long as possible. So that's like after 5 years, then after that I really want to become like a CMO of whatever the next Sydney's most viral startup is then. So that's where I want to be then.
Interesting. So back to sort of the Moët, when you started and the lessons that you've learned from there, are there any of those that are particularly sort of, relevant to what you're doing today at Kinso, or is it?
Yeah.
Because that's clearly obviously your first inkling into brands.
Yes.
So how has it changed, or is it still the same?
It was my first inkling. Well, the first lesson I learned, which my advisor, she'd be very happy I said, is it's Moët, not Moët.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, is it really? Yeah, right.
Everyone gets so shocked, especially in like French, you're meant to like take the T off, but that one, it's like Moët. And that was my, like, when I went in for my interview and I was like, I just want to work at Moët. And she's like, it's Moët. I was like, okay, like that's where but I think it is just like a product is not enough. Like, and the brand and distribution shouldn't be an afterthought. It kind of is the product in the first place. And like, that's what you need to lead with. And that's kind of what's carried through. And I think also this ability to just execute to the highest standard, which is what they did, that's carried through. But again, they're such different worlds. And I always say like, in terms of all the recruiting work I do with like young adults, like my biggest piece of advice is like use process of elimination in that sense. And I knew like the corporate world was not for me straight away. In more of like a career aspect than like a marketing thing. So that was also great to cross off and then dive into the startup world.
And the recruiting, like when you're giving the recruiting advice, is that an after hours thing after work?
Well, I just like feel like I have all these young people in my life who know me as like the YouthForce girl, or also awful name. It sounds like I'm like running an army. But I like had it so
child slavery with Lulu.
And I have also done like some roles where for like senior like head of finances, and then like it's like Lulu at YouthForce is emailing you as well, like randomly for companies that I recruit for. So there's a lot of problems with that name. We need to workshop it. But that's like I have lots of like family friends and young people I know. Like I always get coffee with them and just tell them like try as much as you can, which I'm sure you guys have done as well. Like just try.
No, Will's a bit of a prick. He tells him to get. Nah, I'm kidding.
What's your go-to advice for the youngins?
It's actually a good question. I don't know. My big thing is like if you don't ask, you don't receive. So I feel like just ask people for. Someone said to us actually on a podcast, we always sort of finish interviews with like, "What's your best piece of advice?"
Yeah.
And when someone said, it's to ask for advice.
Right.
Yeah, and like just always ask people because then not because they give you good advice, but because then they feel like they're all of a sudden like in your circle like trying to help you out and stuff.
Yeah.
And then it makes them immediately concerned with how you do and like what you do next and stuff as well.
Right.
So that was actually advice from I think
Paul Tranter.
Boston Consulting Group CFO.
Right.
So I interviewed him over in Boston, which is pretty cool.
That is
as well.
great advice. You just asked me for advice.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, yeah. And we saw a day in your life like post that you did, and
yeah.
it's very, very busy. So like another thing that we grapple with as well, obviously, you know, having a side hustle, and it's become more of a thing for people sort of our age to have a side hustle. How do you deal with like balancing uni, Kinso, YouthForce, and then presumably also like a personal social life as well?
Yeah, it's so weird because I feel like the room that I'm in at Kinso every day, like it's just so normal to have a side hustle, and like you, like everyone I know kind of has one. But I think for me, like my work hours is 7:30 to 3:30 at Kinso. We like can just fully shut down at 3:30. Then it's just booking it. Like I just feel like I have like a second wind in the day. Like that is my like recruitment time. And
Post Red Bull.
Exactly. Post Red Bull. That's exactly it. Or a $10 matcha. So yeah, that's like it's just about staying set on those things. So those are my two biggest priorities, and then uni happens on Sundays where I'm feeling put together. So yeah, that just happens. Yeah.
Good one. Yeah, and thanks, Will, for asking for my piece of advice as well, mate.
What was your
we can get on with it. My piece of advice is go into business with people who actually want to listen to you. That's my best piece of advice.
Battle scars?
No. That's like come from the past 3 minutes.
It's usually the way around, Lulu, so don't worry.
Yeah. No, good one. And so to round out like our discussion, Lily, I was really interested in thinking, you know, often we look backwards in life, and we're putting you very much on the spot here. Like for just quietly, for context for our listeners, we normally send people like a briefing doc with a whole bunch of different questions. I reckon we've asked Lulu probably one of these the whole time. So she's genuinely off the cuff here, which is pretty amazing. In terms of looking forward for you in like what you would define as success, like I know you mentioned the chief marketing officer role, but like what does success look like for you in your own personal career and development?
That's a really good question. I feel like it's definitely like this idea of just continued learning, like always feeling like I'm challenging myself and pushing myself. And every day that is when I feel the most fulfilled. So that is what success is. I never want to be in a role where I fully know what I'm doing. I'm not used to that. I've never been in a role where I know what I'm doing. So yeah, seems what success is to me, because it means I'm just keep pushing my boundaries wherever I'm at.
What a great quote. I've never been in a role where I know what I'm doing, which in and of itself, like if you just heard that by itself, you'd go, oh, that person's incompetent.
Stupid.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Lulu, for coming on the show today. Like Will was pretty stoked.
Absolute blast.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having me.